All right, this is Mr. Zach, and welcome to another edition of Mentor Sentence. I'm hoping that you have tuned in before, so you know what we're doing. The sentence is: if you flip through the history books, you'll stumble upon one of the best remembered journalists and humorists of the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries, Finley Peter Dunne. So I started off by looking at this and actually parsing out all of the words. We have a conjunction, we have a pronoun, we have our verb. If you flip through, preposition, article, adjective, noun, so on and so forth. I will let you pause it here and copy it down if needed. The next thing I did was I actually separated out the dependent phrase, which is this, or sorry, dependent clause, which is this. If you flip through the history books, we do have our subject and our predicate, our noun and our verb. You flip through the history books, but that's not a actual sentence. If you flip through the history books, we can't just say that. And it all comes down to this subordinate conjunction at the beginning of the sentence. You cannot use that. You flip through the history books would be fine, but since we have that if, that subordinate conjunction, we need to make this something different. You'll stumble upon one of the best remembered journalists and humorists of the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries, Finley Peter Dunne. That is our independent clause. I started to split this up. So you're going to end up using this if no matter what to start your sentence. But I still wanted to separate that off because you are writing a conditional sentence here. You flip, obviously, my subject predicate through the history books. Nice little prepositional phrase. And then I start my independent clause, my second clause. You will stumble upon one of the best remembered journalists. I just kind of split it up. Here's how I did it. I've already said it's a complex sentence. I'm adding that it is a declarative sentence. It is also in the conditional tense. And it is in the second person perspective where it's you directly speaking to the reader. I wanted to look back at my verbs. I thought these were jovial, good-natured, really indicative of satire, indicative of the humor that we're trying to portray. We're perusing through these things we are stumbling upon. We are taking a quick glance, not really seriously, just kind of like humorists and satirists do. The next thing, I first was going to say this is an adjective heavy sentence, but it's more medium. And remember, satire is filled with these long-winded phrases, and I felt like this did mimic somewhat the type of writing this author would likely create. And the last thing I wanted was that hyphenated adjective that best remembered. You're going to want to try and use a hyphenated adjective in your own writing. Lastly, there is an appositive phrase which renames that noun. Think about that hand signal. It is two arms out in front, fists kind of connecting right in front of your sternum. And so it is important that we recognize this appositive phrase to rename our noun, which is actually the best remembered journalists and humorists of the 19th and 20th century. This is also a compound direct object. You will stumble upon what? The journalist and humorist. Now, obviously, I cut out the adjectives, but that is still the direct object, and it is important that you have a compound direct object, two different things. Lastly, I looked at the contraction, you will to you'll, then the roots. I was pretty brief this week, but that does not mean you have to. There's a lot more hidden inside this sentence, and I will challenge you to find it. Thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe and smash that like button. That's an illusion.